have it here that since the lowest value is negative 12, so this is now our pivot column. And then choosing the pivot element, just simply divide the constant by the coefficient of this y's of 3. So we have 80 divided by 2. The quotient is 40. 50 divided by 6. The quotient is 25 over 3. And as you can see here, I express into decimal form in order to compare which is the lower value, because we will consider the lower quotient for our pivot element. So since the quotient of 8.33, whose divisor is 6, and 6 will be our pivot element. And for the pivot element, it's always equal to 1 because this is the coefficient of the variable y's of 3. So in order to make it as 1, we will apply the elementary row operation, wherein all we have to do is just multiply by 1/6, which is the reciprocal of the 6 here. So multiplying each element in the second row, which is now our pivot row, because this is the position of the pivot element, by 1/6. So then the elements now on the second row are 1/6, 1/6 for y's of 2, for y's of 3 is now 1, for u is 0, for v is now 1/6, for p this is 0, and for the column constant, second row is now equal to 25 over 3. And for that, this will be our next simplex W. And our next objective is to convert the other values into column of y's of 3 into 0 value. So meaning to say, from 2, we have to convert into 0. The negative 12 also be converted into 0 by using or applying the elementary row operation. Now, in order to do that, we have the pivot element as our reference element and the pivot row, which is our reference row. So then, for the element 2 in y3 column be changed into 0, we have this elementary row operation that the element in row 1 is now be replaced by row 1 minus twice of row 2. For the elements in row 3, since we have negative 12 here and to be converted in 0, so then our elementary row operation with respect to our pivot element is now the element in row 3 can be replaced by the element in row 3 plus 12 times of the element in row 2. And this is now our next simplex W, wherein we have to replace the elements in row 1 and the elements in row 3 by using or applying this elementary row operation. Now for the elements in row 2, since we don't have to replace these elements, so then we will just simply rewrite the elements on our next simplex W. Now for the elements in row 1, let us apply the elementary row operation, that this is just simply row 1 minus twice of row 2. So then this is simply 3 minus 1/3. Why is it 1/3? Because we have to multiply by 2. So 3 minus 1/3, the answer is 8 over 3. 1 minus 1/3, so the answer is 2/3. 2 minus 2, the answer is 0. 1 minus 0 is still 1. 0 minus 1/3, so negative 1/3. 0 minus 0 is 0. 80 minus 50 over 3. Why is it 50 over 3? Because we have to multiply by 2. So 80 minus 50 over 3, the answer is 190 over 3. For the elements in row 3, this is now row 3 plus 12 of row 2. So then this is simply negative 6 plus 2. Why is it 2? Because times 12. Negative 6 plus 2, the answer is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 2, the answer is negative 2. Negative 12 plus 12, the answer is 0. 0 plus 0, the answer is 0. 0 plus 2, the answer is 2. 1 plus 0, so this is 1. 0 plus, this is 25 over 3 times 12, so this is simply 100. Because 12 times 1/3 is 4 times 25 is 100. Now, this is not yet our optimal column because still there are two columns with negative values. Then we have to repeat our steps that we have to look for the pivot column. This time, between -4 and -2, the lower value is -4. So this is our next pivot column. And then we have to look for our next pivot element by dividing the constant into the coefficients of the y's of 1 coefficients. So that will be our next step we're in. We can now divide the 190 over 3 by 8 over 3. The answer is 95 over 4, or in decimal form as 23.75. For the next constant as 25 over 3 to be divided by 1 over 6, the quotient is 50. So between these two quotients, the 23.75 and 50, the lower is 23.75. Therefore, the divisor of this quotient will be our pivot element, which is 8 over 3. And since the pivot element should be equal to 1, then applying elementary row operation again, we will multiply that element by its reciprocal in order to make it as 1. So this time, this is now equal to 1. But we have to multiply each element in the row 1, which is now our pivot row, by the reciprocal of the 8 over 3, which is 3 over 8. So then this is now 1, and this is now equal to 1/4, and then this is 0. This is 3 over 8. This is now negative 1 over 8. This is now 0, and this is now equal to 95 over 4. And that will be our next simplex W.